big issue, if not a new issue, in the world of sports is that we're beginning to understand more and more how much of a strain these athletes are putting on their mental ability and their physical bodies. Now, in the recent years, we've become very aware of how much this demand for perfection that these athletes put themselves through is actually changing their brain chemistry and the way they think and behave before they were into professional sports. And we're seeing more aggressive behavior off the field from men and women in sports, not just contact sports, but a lot of other sports as well. And it's a systemic issue that is permeating throughout the entire entertainment industry of athleticism. Now, athletes put their bodies through a tremendous amount of strain, especially in full contact sports such as mixed martial arts fighting, boxing, the NFL, and others. Now, for this video, we're going to look specifically at the NFL, because it is one of the largest grossing sports industries in the world, and is definitely one of the more popular ones here in the US. And it's also where we're seeing more and more of this aggressive behavior off the field. Now, I don't know the exact training requirements that NFL athletes go through, but it's very rigorous, and they do it constantly, both in the off-season and in the preseason and during the actual NFL season. They're always training. Maybe not every day, but enough that it's putting a lot of strain on their body. Now, I understand why they have to train. They have to be at peak physical condition constantly. They can't get soft. They can't get lazy. They have to always be at their best so that they don't lose their job. And that's what this is to them. This is their career. And they make a lot of money at it. So not being able to play or not being as good as you used to could lose them their job. Not only are they expected to be physically perfect in regards to whatever position they're playing, but they also get thrown around a lot at very high speeds. Now, I did some research into this, and the average weight of an offensive lineman is about 310 pounds. Now, these guys are not soft. They are big individuals, and a lot of that is hard muscle and bone. And these big guys are running at you at around 10 meters per second. Now, that's pretty fast. It's not, Olympic level sprinter, but it's fast enough that when they crash into you, it can generate over 5,000 newtons of force. And that's a lot of force. Luckily, the human body is able to take quite a bit of punishment. Our structure is built intending for us to survive damage. So while we are soft, squishy meat, a healthy individual can actually take quite a bit of damage. And these guys are above just being healthy. But the problem is that we actually heal at a very slow rate. Now, while we can take punishment, we cannot take it consecutively, hit after hit after hit. This type of punishment is repetitive, and it's what causes most of the injuries that we see, the long-term injuries that we see. Like in an athlete's knees, their elbows, those are the weak points of the body, their back, and their head. Now, yes, athletes wear protection. Football players wear a lot of protection. They have helmets, they have pads on their shoulders, on their legs. They are protected because they don't want to get hurt, and the industry doesn't want them to get hurt because they make money off of them. However, that protection only does so much. Force moves through an object. Some of it is absorbed, and then it keeps going. It's laws of physics. When something collides with something else, force is exerted equally back on the original object and travels into the previous object. This is why you can feel the impact of something on the other side of it. That force is still going through. It's less, but it's still going through. Now, when a big guy runs into you and they clash heads together, that force is going back into their head. The helmet absorbs some of it, the skull absorbs some of it, and then the rest goes inside. Now, this wouldn't be so much of an issue except for the brain actually moves inside of your skull. It's not stationary, like some people believe. It's encased in fluid, and that fluid is supposed to help absorb impact, like a shock absorber. Now, if you've ever gone over a really big bump, you know your shock absorbers do not take all of the impact. They take some of it to lessen the blow. The blow still hits you. Another example would be whiplash. When you're in a car and you suddenly stop really fast, your body keeps going forward. The same happens to your brain. When you hit your head against something hard enough, your brain will keep going forward and will actually collide with the interior of your skull. Now, this is what causes a lot of brain injuries. Now, luckily, we can deal with minor injuries. But if you continually get more and more injuries, that damage accumulates. We're not Wolverine. We don't heal perfectly. We get scar tissue, and that weakens our body's ability to take more damage in that region. It's even more so for your brain. Now, a mild concussion, which is what most people sustain, is very common. Lots of people have had them. I've had a concussion. I actually don't know anybody who has not had a concussion. They're really common and usually not life-threatening or even dangerous. You can usually figure out you have a mild one on your own and you'll be fine as long as you don't, fall asleep and not wake up again. Now, the issue, though, is that athletes, especially people in full contact sports, where they're getting hit in the head, they're constantly getting concussions. And we don't even know exactly how many they're receiving individually because they're not always reported or they're misdiagnosed. Now, Frontline has something going on called Concussion Watch for the NFL to help monitor and report on the amount of concussions and brain injuries, or head injuries, I should say, sustained by NFL players throughout the season, how many days they miss from their injuries, and things like that. And it's really important that we know that because if these people are not giving themselves the amount of time needed to recover from even a mild injury, that cumulative effect where they are playing in the next game or they're in practice the next day and they're hitting their head again, it's going to cause problems. Now, what can those problems be? Well, our brain is a massively complex yet very delicate thing. Mild injuries can actually cause very big effects. Injuring your brain can result in mood swings, depression, which is really common among athletes. It can cause increased aggression depending on where the injury in the brain is. Memory loss, another very common effect in sports. The list goes on of terrible things that head injuries can cause. It can actually completely rewrite your personality. Everything that we are is in our brain. And the more you damage it, it changes who you are. That's not good. Not at all. Now, the thing, luckily, we're starting to pay attention to these types of injuries, and they are decreasing. People are being more aware, the athletes are more aware, so they're taking less risks and getting less injured. Now, some people might point out that there have been aggressive outbursts from non-contact oriented sports, or from athletes from non-contact oriented sports, such as tennis or soccer or even golf. Here's the reason behind that, in my opinion. And now, I'm not a doctor, so this is not a professional opinion, but it makes the most sense to me. Our bodies are governed by chemistry. Almost everything that occurs in our body is dictated by chemicals. And our body is designed for one purpose and one purpose only, to ensure our survival. Now, we're different from most animals in that we are able to override our survival instincts. Now, that overriding of the survival instinct is what allows us to do things that are not intrinsic to our immediate survival. However, our unconscious brain is still triggered directly towards our individual survival. And our unconscious brain is not terribly intelligent. Now, here's an example. When we exert ourselves, we release chemicals into our body to promote muscle growth or to promote speed or to promote aggression in our system. Chemicals like testosterone, adrenaline, endorphins, these are all things that get released into our bodies in a big cocktail. And this cocktail alters the way that we behave and the way we think in order for us to survive. Now, in a primitive world, this would be perfect because it would allow us to evade predators or to escape from any dangerous situation we found ourselves in, and as well as helping us find our food. Now, in a civilized society, we no longer need that primitive instinct to hunt and gather and be stronger and more aggressive. But with athletes, they're constantly producing these chemicals because they're constantly training, and that rewires the way that their mentality is going to work. So when you're introducing these chemicals continuously into your system, they all go up into your brain, they alter the way you think, and it can change who you are. And when you add the pharmaceutical versions of these chemicals, such as performance-enhancing steroids, then that causes even more problems because your body chemistry is being overwhelmed with these chemicals that produce instinctual urges. And aggression is a big key part of that. And that's why you see a lot of athletes with strong aggressive tendencies. Now, on the field, that's great. It helps them be better athletes. But off the field, off of whatever game they're playing, those aggressive tendencies can be very detrimental to their social well-being. Now, this isn't to say that sports are bad or watching sports is encouraging bad behavior, but we have to understand that because of the demand we're putting on these athletes, the social demand, the economic demand that we're putting onto these athletes to constantly improve and constantly be the absolute best, no matter the circumstances, it causes massive issues with their physical well-being and especially with their mental well-being. And we're only now starting to pay attention to that. And it's something we really need to think about when we think about how much we love sports as a country. And as a country, we really love sports. Now, you may disagree or agree with me. I'd like to hear what you have to say. Please join the discussion in the comments below.